Chapter 15 of Indiscretions of Archie by P.G. Wodehouse. Read by Mark Nelson. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, visit LibriVox.org. Indiscretions of Archie. Chapter 15 Summer Storms. Of course, in a way, the thing was simple. The wheeze was, in a sense, straightforward and uncomplicated. What he wanted to do was to point out to the injured girl all that hung on her. He wished to touch her heart, to plead with her, to desire her to restate her war aims, and to persuade her, before 3 o'clock, when that stricken gentleman would be stepping into the pitcher's box to loose off the first ball against the Pittsburgh Pirates, to let bygones be bygones and forgive Augustus Biddle. But the blighted problem was, how the deuce to find the opportunity to start. He couldn't yell at the girl in a crowded streetcar, and if he let go of his strap and bent over her, somebody would step on his neck. The girl-friend, who for the first 5 minutes had remained entirely concealed beneath her hat, now sought diversion by looking up and examining the faces of the upper strata of passengers. Her eye caught Archie's in a glance of recognition, and he smiled feebly, endeavoring to register bonhomie and goodwill. He was surprised to see a startled expression come into her brown eyes. Her face turned pink. At least, it was pink already, but it turned pinker. The next moment, the car having stopped to pick up more passengers, she jumped off and started to hurry across the street. Archie was momentarily taken aback. When embarking on this business, he had never intended it to become a blend of otter hunting and a moving picture chase. He followed her off the car with a sense that his grip on the affair was slipping. Preoccupied with these thoughts, he did not perceive that the long young man who had shared his strap had alighted too. His eyes were fixed on the vanishing figure of the girl-friend, who, having buzzed at a smart pace into 6th Avenue, was now legging it in the direction of the staircase leading to one of the stations of the elevated railroad. Dashing up the stairs after her, he shortly afterwards found himself suspended as before from a strap, gazing upon the now familiar flowers on top of her hat. From another strap, farther down the carriage, swayed the long young man in the grey suit. The train rattled on. Once or twice, when it stopped, the girl seemed undecided whether to leave or remain. She half rose, then sank back again. Finally she walked resolutely out of the car, and Archie, following, found himself in a part of New York strange to him. The inhabitants of this district appeared to eke out a precarious existence, not by taking in one another's washing, but by selling one another second-hand clothes. Archie glanced at his watch. He had lunched early, but so crowded with emotions had been the period following lunch that he was surprised to find that the hour was only just 2. The discovery was a pleasant one. With a full hour before the scheduled start of the game, much might be achieved. He hurried after the girl, and came up with her just as she turned the corner into one of those forlorn New York side streets which are populated chiefly by children, cats, desultory loafers, and empty meat tins. The girl stopped and turned. Archie smiled a winning smile. "I say, my dear sweet creature," he said. "I say, my dear old thing, one moment." "Is that so?" said the girl-friend. "I beg your pardon?" "Is that so?" Archie began to feel certain tremors. Her eyes were gleaming, and her determined mouth had become a perfectly straight line of scarlet. It was going to be difficult to be chatty to this girl. She was going to be a hard audience. Would mere words be able to touch her heart? The thought suggested itself that, properly speaking, one would need to use a pickaxe. "If you could spare me a couple of minutes of your valuable time—" "Say," the lady drew herself up menacingly, "you tie a can to yourself and disappear. Fade away, or I'll call a cop." Archie was horrified at this misinterpretation of his motives. One or two children, playing close at hand, and a loafer who was trying to keep the wall from falling down, seemed pleased. Theirs was a colourless existence, and to the rare purple moments which had enlivened it in the past, the calling of a cop had been the unfailing preliminary. The loafer nudged a fellow loafer, sunning himself against the same wall. The children, abandoning the meat tin round which their game had centred, drew closer. "My dear old soul," said Archie, "you don't understand." "Don't I? I know your sort, you trailing arbutus." "No, no, my dear old thing, believe me, I wouldn't dream." "Are you going, or aren't you?" 11 more children joined the ring of spectators. The loafers stared silently, like awakened crocodiles. "But, I say, listen, I only wanted—" At this point another voice spoke. "Say." The word "say," more almost than any word in the American language, is capable of a variety of shades of expression. It can be genial, it can be jovial, it can be appealing, it can also be truculent. The "say," which at this juncture smote upon Archie's eardrum with a suddenness which made him leap in the air, was truculent, and the 2 loafers and 27 children who now formed the audience were well satisfied with the dramatic development of the performance. To their experienced ears the word had the right ring. Archie spun round. At his elbow stood a long, strongly built young man in a grey suit. "Well," said the young man nastily, and he extended a large, freckled face toward Archie's. It seemed to the latter, as he backed against the wall, that the young man's neck must be composed of india-rubber. It appeared to be growing longer every moment. His face, besides being freckled, was a dull brick red in colour. His lips curled back in an unpleasant snarl, showing a gold tooth, and beside him, swaying in an ominous sort of way, hung 2 clenched red hands about the size of 2 young legs of mutton. Archie eyed him with a growing apprehension. There are moments in life when, passing idly on our way, we see a strange face, look into strange eyes, and, with a sudden glow of human warmth, say to ourselves, "We have found a friend." This was not one of those moments. The only person Archie had ever seen in his life who looked less friendly was the sergeant major who had trained him in the early days of the war, before he got his commission. "I've had my eye on you," said the young man. He still had his eye on him. It was a hot, gimlet-like eye, and it pierced the recesses of Archie's soul. He backed a little farther against the wall. Archie was frankly disturbed. He was no poltroon, and had proved the fact on many occasions during the days when the entire German army seemed to be picking on him personally, but he hated and shrank from anything in the nature of a bally public scene. "What?" inquired the young man, still bearing the burden of the conversation, and shifting his left hand a little farther behind his back, "do you mean by following this young lady?" Archie was glad he had asked him. This was precisely what he wanted to explain. "My dear old lad," he began,